2020 was a special time at the Filbert Street Garden. Our community garden had become an independent nonprofit after a contentious year where we had to fight to prevent the garden from being taken and repurposed by Baltimore City after nearly a decade of operations. The harbingers of this new era were the first two goats born at Filbert Street, Ed and Winter. This new beginning was covered by the Baltimore Brew. Goats are typically born as twins. Ed came first, along with his sister Winter a few minutes later. Their mother Cheese had been at the garden for about 2 years, and we expanded our goat habitat to allow for more goats. Winter was fostered with the Miller family so that she would grow up to become very friendly with humans. Ed had remained with his mother, and we did plan to have him move on to another community garden that would adopt him once he was neutered and weaned. However, life often takes an odd turn. It turned out that Ed wasn't shy like his mother. He was our friendliest goat. He never needed to be fostered. He loved people from the moment he was born. He loves being the center of attention, and he always adored play dates with himself and 2 other goats that we adopted, as well as his sister. Ed was named for our former Baltimore City Councilman, Ed Ratzinger, who helped save the garden in its time of need. Ed has always been playful, sweet, and silly. We've always envied how energetic he is. With the pandemic just beginning at the time, Ed was receiving dozens of visitors a day at the gate, as well as hundreds of people just watching the live cam of his birth and him just playing in the playpen with his mother. It gave the neighborhood and, frankly, southern Baltimore some very welcome relief. What we didn't expect was that on the night of May 18th, 2020, 2 teenage boys took Ed. Until now, this is footage that we've just never showed to the public.
Yo, I got the thing, but I'm scared to open this.
The boys had cut a hole into our fence and climbed into the garden. Ed was sleeping in the loft, but Cheese was very weary of them.
I got the thing on. What?
The boys had broke the lock on the front of the barn, and Ed ran out just to greet them and try to make friends. Sadly, they took him.
All right, right now, the Filbert Street Garden in Curtis Bay are putting out a plea to help them find a baby goat. They say early this morning, a little after midnight, 2 teenage boys broke in to the Filbert Street Garden right there in beautiful Curtis Bay, and they took Ed, the baby Nigerian dwarf goat. Now, the animal caretaker says he doesn't think the boys are trying to hurt the goat and doesn't think they're bad kids. He just wants Ed to come back home.
Who steals a goat? Who really steals a goat? I don't know if it's to sell them or it's mischief or on a dare or something. I really don't know. But all I know is we just want him back, and we're paying a reward of $300, no questions asked, to get him back.
It's important that he's found because, listen, Ed is not yet weaned from his mother. He will starve to death if he isn't found.
Local TV news, newspapers, and even radio stations throughout Baltimore and D.C. picked the story up, and the Baltimore Brew by far had my personal favorite headlines. Just very solid puns. One of the most heartbreaking things from that day was poor Cheese. She wailed much of the day and walked around in the habitat again and again looking behind things, just looking for her lost baby. I remember just hanging out in there and giving her treats and trying to spend some time with her, and I promised her that if we ever got her baby back, I would never separate the two of them ever again. May 19th was a very odd Tuesday, and the recovery of Ed was fully a community effort. Both Baltimore City Police and volunteers had patrolled the alleyways of southern Baltimore looking for Ed. We spoke to 2 different radio shows that morning in the city and put out the word on social media. We spoke directly to both Baltimore City and Anne Arundel County animal control folks just to see if Ed showed up somewhere abandoned or they got a call about a goat. At 9 p.m., we got a call from a neighbor that a couple that routinely walked around the neighborhood were spotted carrying a pet carrier and walking up to the garden gate. The neighbor approached them and confirmed that it was indeed Ed in the crate. The teens that had taken Ed had put him in a crate right in front of the water tower next door to the garden, as they likely knew that the cameras were right in front of the garden due to the news reports. The Baltimore City police detectives that were assigned to the case immediately came down to meet Ed, along with a number of our volunteers that had been walking the community for hours. Laughing, cuddling, and tears were a really big part of that night.
The goat known as Ed is now back home in its community garden. Someone anonymously returned it last night. Amy Kawada joins us and shows us how the Curtis Bay community says it's much more than just a goat and a garden.
I came over to look for little Ed, her baby goat, and he wasn't there. And that's when I started crying, because I knew they had stolen the baby.
After nearly 24 hours away from his home at Filbert Street Garden in Curtis Bay.
Oh my God, it was like taking one of my grandchildren.
I don't know why they took him.
3-month-old Ed, a baby Nigerian dwarf goat, has been returned back home safely and is reunited with his mother again.
I'm so happy you're back.
Community members say they could not be more ecstatic to see him back home.
We have a lot of people that come through every day just to stop and look at the ghosts.
It may look like just a simple community garden.
We've watched it, my grandchildren has watched it, and we love them, they're families.
But to the residents of Curtis Bay, it means everything to them.
It's so much to where when you don't have a whole lot in the community, this garden makes a big difference to a lot of the children and adults.
10 years in the making, and Rodette Jones has been managing the Filbert Street Garden from its roots. And the 1-acre land isn't just home to goats. It houses bees, chickens, to ducks, even fruits and vegetables.
Easter, Christmas, even in the cold, in the snow, in the rain, she gives it all. They have popcorn, they have giveaways.
As for little baby goat Ed, the Curtis Bay community is just happy to be a complete family again.
We are so happy that Ed is right back with his family where he needs to be, with his mama.
Ed coming home had lifted a large weight off of our hearts. However, a lot more had to be done. We needed to make repairs to both our fence and our barn door. We needed to install more security cameras throughout the pen along with lighting. In addition, we wanted to make a better habitat for Ed, his mother, and other goats that we had adopted. A GoFundMe had been set up, and the proceeds of that went to 5 new outdoor nest cameras, security lights, additional play furniture including our goat tower, as well as a new feeder. We were also able to install a large outdoor fan that ran during the hottest times of the day. The irony is that Ed's kidnapping changed the garden in the long run. His local celebrity led to hundreds of people coming to visit him that year. It began a long tradition at the garden of people coming to the fence each day to feed our herd. Even the coldest, wettest, and ugliest days, their fans just show up from all over Baltimore to see them. Ed has grown into the alpha of our herd. It is ironic that he grew up to become the prince of the pen. He is still the first to come up and greet guests. Despite his size, he'll really just try to climb into your lap if you sit down, like a big dumb dog that just doesn't know he's no longer a puppy. We're keeping our promise to Cheese and will never separate her and her son ever again. Each and every night they cuddle up together and go to sleep. No matter who you are, Ed loves you and just wants to be your friend. There's something to be learned from that. Please like our video and consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you for watching.